Good evening. Welcome to the Pleasantville Village Board meeting. Today is Monday, May 18. So if you are watching at home on Monday, May 18, we are here and happy to receive your calls. Call-ins are welcome at any time. The number is 769-1677. So we have a number of things to report on. It was an eventful weekend. Pleasantville Day occurred on Saturday, and I think it was a great day all around town. Started out with a really nice ceremony that took place in the garden behind Ashbourne Hall on Wheeler Avenue near Clinton Street, which was an intergenerational celebration of community that involved students from the Bedford Road School who had been involved in various student council efforts to assist with the garden, students from Pleasantville Middle School who'd been involved in an effort to raise money to assist in Darfur, students from Pleasantville High School, the National Art Honor Society, who have been involved in a series of projects at the Senior Center over a period of years, making a mural, making mosaic tables, developing some site sculptures that are going to go in the new garden. And we were joined by our Congresswoman Nita Lowy, our State Senator Andrew Stewart Cousins, our County Legislator and former Mayor John Nona. The school district was well represented with Dr. Antonecchia and a number of members of the school board. It was a great kickoff, one of those moments when makes you, reminds you what a great place this is to live. So a lot of people from that point went over to the Jacob Burns Film Center to the second floor where the gallery was given over to the high school art show, which is another incredible annual event that I thought, I don't know what you guys thought if you got over there.
Great.
As good as it's been in past years, it was even better this year. Such an incredible collection of stuff and both an amazing amount of work and amazing quality of work, especially for a high school that by most standards is on the small side. So then we had the fair we always have downtown. The rain held off and a really nice day was had by all. I forgot to mention that another very nice piece of the ceremony at Clinton Street was the middle school World Drummers led by Dorian Nuccio, which was also really a great piece. So it was a fantastic day for Pleasantville, a great day for Pleasantville School District and community cooperation. Thanks go to Ginny Brantano, who is the long-standing organizer of Pleasantville Day and did a bang-up job this year. Thanks go to everybody in Village Hall, to Public Works and the Parks Group. Mario Sansoda, the foreman of Parks, was on top of everything. So a nice day, a happy event, and sets a high bar for us to meet in future years. So it's a big next couple of weeks coming up. The Memorial Day Parade is a week from today on May 25th. Starts out at 10 a.m. with a ceremony at the World War I Monument outside BRS on Bedford Road, and then the traditional parade down Bedford Road to Memorial Plaza, where there will be a ceremony with some music and comments from various different people. So it's really an awfully nice event, a great and appropriate moment to remember the sacrifices of people who have served our country, and I encourage all of you to come to Memorial Day Parade. At the end of the week, we have a second parade, 2 parades in 1 week. The Fire Department Parade is Friday, May 29. That starts at 7 p.m. And makes its way down from the area of Romer Avenue, down Marble Avenue, through Memorial Plaza, up Washington Avenue, down Grove, and ends at the firehouse. So another great night, an annual event in the Village of Pleasantville. The day after that, the farm market opens. That's on Saturday, May 30th. It starts at 7 a.m. and runs till 2 p.m. in Memorial Plaza. A day I look forward to, the first day of the farm market, Saturday, May 30.
It's 8 a.m., isn't it? It doesn't start.
It says 7. Is it 8?
Typically 8. Yeah.
It's always been
Okay, let's make it 8. You early birds, you need to stay home 1 more hour.
They start setting up around 7. Some people try to get in there early and get those olives or pickles or whatever they're lining up for.
It's a fantastic event. So, and for the benefit of those of you who follow the Village Board, because we don't have a meeting next Monday, which is Memorial Day, we're going to have a special regular meeting on Friday, May 29th at 9 a.m. for the purpose of paying fiscal year 2008-2009 bills. That's just some housekeeping and paperwork that we need to close out the fiscal year. So our next regular work session is Monday, June 1 at 7 p.m. and then our next regular meeting is Monday, June 8 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7 p.m. So I have a few other things to talk about. Anybody else have any reports or comments?
No, sir. It's a school vote tomorrow, regardless of what district you're in. There are a couple of districts in Pleasantville, so remember to go vote. There are school board members. There's actually an election this year, and there's a budget to be voted on. So,
thank you for reminding us of that. It's the vote, I believe, is from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Pleasantville High School lower gym. And that is a perfect opportunity to segue to what is really, really big news for the Village of Pleasantville, and that is that the PCTV website, which has been in gestation for a couple of months, has gone live. Pleasantville Day was its first official day, and Shane McGaffey, who is our cameraman tonight, deserves enormous credit for what he has wrought, along with his colleague Darren Greco, who is a computer consultant who was hired in this venture. This is a joint venture with contributions from PCTV, from the village government, and from the school board. And the great news about this is that those of you who are watching us on cable TV tonight could also be watching us via a live web stream at pctv76.org. So that's going to be a new place to bookmark in your browser, www.pctv76.org.
One of the magnets, Shane?
Can you zero in on that, Shane, on Ben Sarabin's laptop? You will find that PCTV76.org is a place to go to have live web streaming of these meetings. But in addition to that, you are going to be able to go to archives of village board meetings, of school board meetings, of all of the content that is broadcast normally on PCTV, and you'll be able to see both the live stream of what's going on now, but also, if you care to, pull up the video files for meetings, events, programs that occurred in the past. As this thing ramps up, we're also going to have indexes on the meetings, so that if you're not wanting to hear us drone on about every other subject, you can zip forward quickly to the subject that interests you and zero in on it. So it is a fantastic thing on many, many levels. And as mentioned, everybody at PCTV, but especially Shane McGaffey, deserve enormous credit for what is, I think, a great-looking site. It's going to be a bang-up resource for the community, and very happy news that you will now have the option of watching all this stuff through the web and not need to have cable television in order to see it. So that gives rise to a couple of other comments to make. We've received a bunch of written communications, and one of the letters I received was from Grace Bayer, complaining about the recent changes that Cablevision has wrought upon its consumers. And I happen to be one of those consumers that was affected, and so I think I have understood this, so listen carefully. If I do recommend that you contact Cablevision to be sure that your understanding of it is correct. But as of May 5th, Cablevision pulled out of the basic package about 14 channels that you can no longer get unless you have the required Cablevision converter or a cable card that they issue that goes into a device that can accommodate it. So you may recall that a similar change was made a year or so ago. Cablevision offered the opportunity within a specific time frame to call up and get a free converter box that would allow you to get back the channels they had taken for forever without any charge for the box. This year, no such deal is available, and instead they have offered that if you contact Cablevision before July 6, you will be given a free cable box for 1 year, and at the conclusion of that 1 year, they will start charging you for it. And I believe that the total charge for the box and the remote is something like $9 a month. So this is a frustrating circumstance. The reality is that all the cable providers are morphing towards digital scrambled signals that are going to require their proprietary box. But the dates to keep in mind are that if you're interested in getting back the channels you recently lost, you can do so if you call Cablevision before July 6, but recognize that if you get that box, it will be free only for a year, and after a year they start charging you for it.
Also, if you have a box, you cannot get this box for free.
You can't get a second.
You cannot get a second.
Right.
So if you have one you want to make for your other TV that lost all these channels, you can't do that. Because you have a box in your home, they're not going to give you one for free. I only know that because I went down there to get my free box, and I ended up paying for it. So.
So one other little bit of fine print, and I mean fine print, the bottom of the letter is extremely fine print. If you avail yourself of this option to get the box that will get back these channels for 1 year free, you lose the right to the free box that you may already have. So the free box you may already have is not going to give you back these 14 channels. So it's a highly frustrating circumstance. I can tell you that the first thing to be noted is that the village has absolutely no control whatsoever over what channels are offered and what Cablevision charges for them. Our franchise agreements and local control does not include either of those two things. So I can assure you that the day this happened, we knew it was coming. I called Robert Hawk, who's the Cablevision government liaison to Pleasantville, and bent his ear for a good long while about this problem. And I just want you to know that we voiced our concerns to Cablevision very clearly, but we do not have the power nor the right to influence their choices in this particular matter. So frustrating though it is, that leads me to the last point about cable television, and that is that last Wednesday we had a meeting, myself, Jonathan Cunningham, and Patty Dwyer, with two representatives from Verizon, one John Harrington, with whom we have met previously, but a new person as well who comes from Verizon in the city, and we, I think, had what I would call a productive and frank meeting. The village has modified its proposal and has shown some flexibility, and we, I think, have built a strong case that it ought to be accepted, and we ought to flip the switch to allow the residents to have the choice of Verizon or Cablevision. The reality, as described by the Verizon representative, is that the decision-making process is labyrinthine, and it remains unclear exactly how quickly we can expect a response from Verizon from what I view as a very, very reasonable offer on our part. So I can assure you that I am making a call or sending an email on this subject pretty much every day, and it is very high on our radar screen, especially given the recent fisticuffs with Cablevision. So that's the report on cable TV, but the most important takeaway from all of this is that at www.pctv76.org you will not only have access to all the local services in real time, but have the chance to go into the archives and read them and hear them from the past. So.
Will that past include anything that occurred prior to the establishment of this new service, i.e. will any of the past programs going back prior to May 18th of 2009 be indexed or available on the new
Last
service?
week's meeting is up.
If that's what you want, I can slowly go back and do that.
Well, I was just asking.
Very slowly.
Well, so Shane's answer to Steve's question was that if we want to do that, he can go back and start slowly migrating that stuff over to the website. My guess is it may be better to devote the resources towards going forward, and if there's some request or interest in something specific, I don't know, what's your take on?
I was just raising the question.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Well, so I think if I understood Shane correctly, the plan is to start it in May and go forward, but Shane is...
I'd like to see the last 5 years, Shane.
Well, last week's meeting is on, right? Last Monday and nothing before last Monday.
Right, that hasn't been indexed yet, but it will be.
But it's up. The
And
whole
how about
meeting
old
is
John
up.
Wayne movies? Is that going to be in the cards? So. All right, so really
Yeah.
good news, and again, kudos to PCTV for taking the good service they have always provided us and pushing it not only to a new level, but several levels up beyond where it was. So Shane reports that he expects lots of improvements in what is already an impressive site, so happy news. A couple of other things just to report. We've had some ongoing communication from various residents on both sides of the Church Street sidewalk issue, and last week Mindy Berard and I went on a walk around with residents of Green Meadow and Hayes Hill regarding the drainage problem that exists up near Summit, St. Jude's, Green Meadow, and Hayes Hill, and that will be a subject of some work sessions going forward to revisit the opportunities we may have to deal with that. And in addition to that, if you have followed our agendas, we've also been talking about a possible public works project that would address some drainage near the Church Street end of Green Meadow and also replace an aging water main that has to be replaced. So there are a couple of big ticket items that are on the radar screen, and we will be having some work sessions as well as another walkthrough up in the Green Meadow area with Steve Johnson, the DPW superintendent, and our consulting village engineer to see what our options may be in that regard. Just to update you on a couple other things we've been talking about, there was a...
Peter,
Oh, go ahead.
then we did
Yes.
walk on Church Street also.
Oh, yes,
right?
go ahead. Why don't you?
No, go
Yeah.
ahead. I just want to remind you.
We also walked on Church Street with a couple of residents at the lower end of Church Street, looking at the conditions that exist down there and what the implications might be about a project to put sidewalks at the lower end of Church Street from Green Meadow on down. So for those who may have watched the last time, we've engaged Adler Consulting, which is a traffic engineering firm, to do a traffic study and provide us a letter report about the safety conditions on Church Street and the possibilities and obstacles associated with a sidewalk and or a crosswalk. So do we know, Patty, when they're going to get started on that? Is that imminent?
I received an email today from Michael O'Rourke, who I think is the lead on the project for Adler, and he has all the information that he needed from us now. He has some right-of-way information, and he has accident data. He's saying next week, probably
All right.
midweek, Wednesday through Friday.
Well, whatever. We'll stay in touch on that front, and Adler will be back and forth a few times in an effort to see conditions in various different circumstances and at various times of the day. So we had a discussion with some residents on Parkway Terrace about the conditions they suffer on Parkway Terrace with cars backing up to get into the sawmill, and are going to revisit with the State Department of Transportation the question of whether the on-ramp to the sawmill south at Parkway Terrace could or should be closed and whether that might improve the conditions. And we have also been talking, as you may have heard at the previous meeting, and we'll be talking, I hope, next week with the police chief about sharpening up our emergency planning document and systems to make sure that everybody who has a responsibility in the event of an emergency understands who, what, when, and where. So that is what has been going on here at the Village Board. We have tonight a bunch of things to address, the first of which is a continuation of a public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 185 zoning, Section 185-3, which is definitions and word use, and Section 185-19, Central Business A1 District. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is something of a procedural act on our part. As you may recall, at the time that we were thinking about the Central Business District Master Planning Committee, we proposed a number of different kinds of changes that we could make in the zoning code that would address and establish different requirements for businesses on the first floor in the downtown, that is potentially restricting office uses from the first floor, that would change the requirements, restrictions, and reviews for business proposals that would occupy corners, and to reconsider the definitions of food activities, recognizing that our current definitions don't take into account the kind of hybrid uses that now exist with things like coffee bars that have morphed into restaurants and really are not fast food establishments, etc. And then lastly, to consider the question of whether we should have any restrictions on so-called formula businesses, that being essentially chain businesses that might come into town. So I think my personal opinion on that, as I said the last time we talked about this, is that we should await the results of the Central Business District Citizens Committee report. We met with Peter Rushweiler and Peter Russell. Steve Lopez is the third chair of that in his previous life, pre-Village Board. And actually looked at a very rough draft of report, and believe we're going to be seeing a report soon. But many of these issues are addressed in that, and it represents community feedback from a group of about 50 people.
There are actually several additional, or I should say, two additional pieces that are important, I think, to consider in context of these. And one is a summary of Planning Board recommendations to the Village Board going back over the last several years, which is being rewritten and will likely come with the Central Business District report as an appendix. And that overlaps with these proposals because these proposals originate with the Planning Board. That is, the proposals that are the subject of the adjourned public hearing we opened tonight. And then more recently, the building inspector put together a list of items which are dealing in part with the business district and in part with the residential districts in the village, which also need to be addressed. So I think what we're going to end up with, and I'm not sure how best to address it, we probably want to discuss it some, is a list that's considerably longer and more detailed than this list that could be the subject of a larger general housekeeping effort by the board and reaching out to the village. And for that type of effort, so much of this is detailed textual changes that I think that it would be a good time to bring in our village attorneys to look through it all, make sure it's consistent, and make sure that whatever changes are planned are going to be consistent within the village's, the balance of the village code. I was concerned with changes maybe a year or two ago that I was looking at as proposals here, that some of the zones which might be impacted had not been looked at, and it appeared that they were the proposed changes were creating conflicts. So this kind of effort, I think, does gain considerably from the input from groups like the Central Business District Committee, and certainly from airing these ideas and discussing them with the general public. But at a certain point, we really need to have, I believe, village attorneys look over the proposals carefully and make sure the wording is good, and make sure the thought process is carried through to a final product in a way that makes sense for the village and is something that we are comfortable with, that it's good law, that it makes sense with what we currently have, and is really what it is that we're trying to say. Frequently, and with all the best interests, we end up with laws at all levels of government that become more stumbling blocks than they do advances, and that's something to be wary of.
Those things, will these be recommendations or just are these observations? The list we got from Mike Testa today, there were a lot of those which he's just pointing out possible stumbling blocks and that we should think about. And will the Planning Commission go over each one of those and recommend?
Any zone changes you're contemplating need to be referred to the Planning Board for review and recommendation. Of these three pieces that we have, this current legislation recommending changes to Central Business District, in particular with regard to identifying major business intersections and definitions of restaurants and so forth, this text didn't come from the Planning Board. The recommendation to address it did. This text, I believe, was prepared by our planning consultants, and it wasn't until, I don't believe, I saw that this was, as a former member of the board as well, that I saw this as subject of your public hearing. I don't believe I'd seen it before. So it had morphed into this from recommendations from the planning board, which is fine. That may be a typical process. And then this, but I think that this needs to be looked at carefully and compared with that prior recommendation. And when it's looked at and wordsmithed, it probably should go back to the planning board, along with whatever other components of the other two pieces are picked up and thought best to move forward as well. As I mentioned, some of those are business, some of them are not business districts, some of them I believe are related to this, and some are not.
Since I'm just coming back on the board, I wasn't part of this. Could somebody explain to me, given that this needs to be looked at by the planning board further, and we need to think about it, why are we continuing the continuation?
The reason
I'll just say, I was putting out there a policy consideration that since we do have these other components, and I think overlapping this somewhat, that we probably should think about the policy of the issue which you just raised, in part. But certainly, I think that the last time we discussed this, the last hearing that was adjourned, there were some questions, I think, from other board members here about the efficacy of all the language that is here, and we wanted to wait to hear from the Central Business District Committee. And I think that in that report, the most prescient thing that came forward to me, and I was expecting it, I was hoping that it was being received by you all as well, I don't think you're going to or should expect to receive from a volunteer group recommendations of very specific and detailed zoning language. They can point us in a direction. Yeah, we do think that there should be major intersections, as the planning board had noted, within the village, around which there are controls for specific reasons relating to traffic and visibility and so on. But I don't think that we can expect them to write that language, and this has already moved into the language writing portion of that.
Right.
There are other things. Those
So
other
this reflects
And
pretty
we have a lot of us had a problem
precisely
with
what the planning board...
Well, no, I question
but
that. I think that
No.
this represents the thought of issues that should be addressed.
Okay.
But it's been put into language. I don't believe the planning board has been put back to the planning board to review, and before that was done, I would think that it would make some sense to have our own attorneys look over it and put it into good shape for all of us to look at.
I agree. I think honestly
I
that
agree.
This document, the thing that's been up for public hearing and has been carried over a number of meetings, is highly unlikely to survive in anything like its current form. It was really an effort to establish a proposal that would both generate opportunity for comment, but also protect the village against a number of problems that had been identified. And one of the key problems, for example, was that in the course of this review, we realized that there were relatively few constraints on corners, and indeed had been aware of the possibility of a corner that might have turned into a drive-through bank kind of a use that was clearly not something we'd have been happy to have there. And so for that reason, providing this sample language was protective to the extent that we've now posted for public hearing and have continued as active public hearing a number of restrictions that now
So it's
have the implied force of law. In other words, a person would have to come to the village board in order to...
So it's a de facto moratorium.
Well, it is not so much a moratorium as a statement that we have these concerns. And
Not
if
that I'm opposed
anybody-
to that, by the way, but I'm understanding then why we...
To my knowledge, nobody in the course of this process has proposed to do anything that would have run afoul of any of these constraints. But is that your take on it, Patty? That's
How we assembled those?
right. I mean, it's kind of a catch-all document, indeed a little bit internally inconsistent. So.
Well, would it make sense then to come to some kind of consensus about adjourning this again until we've had opportunity to at least have council look at it, evaluate it, and perhaps in context of the other two documents that I referenced earlier?
Is this something they should be looking at, though, or
Well, I
'cause
think-
this is so...
I think we should leave that to them to advise us.
Well, I think we wait till we see the context of what the rest of the documents that are being generated by the committee. I think those are the important documents
Give
that
it
we
all
can
to
then
They're being
consider
wordsmithed.
this
Yeah,
with.
sure, certainly, that
Well,
would
I
be
mean,
fine.
and part of it is, for example, to get back the sense of the business district committee about some of these issues. Should we restrict formula businesses, and if so, how, and to what degree? Should we restrict business uses on the first floor? I mean, office uses on the first floor, and if so, how? So when we have a sense of that, it seems to me that probably on our side of the table we can modify this into something that feels more like it actually is a statement of intent, and then pass it, I think, quite rightly, as you propose, to the people that actually know how to write these things in an airtight fashion.
Now, would they recommend, the council, would they recommend at that point, all of these have to be reflected in the master plan, right? They have to coincide. Do they not?
I think what's going to happen is a comprehensive plan is a general document of generalities.
A general document of generality.
A general document.
File it under G, whichever way you go.
Right. Issues of concern and so forth. There will be, from what I understand, the way it will be prepared, an appendix, which is really the best way to handle this, that will be a catch-all for various specific code changes that would make some sense, given the generalities document. And as those are, its decisions are made on those, it becomes kind of a checklist, a very specific checklist. But but having an objective to strengthen the visual character of downtown Pleasantville doesn't necessarily lend itself to a specific list of code changes, because it could be a variety of different things. There could be input from the business community. There could be some some seed money that would encourage businesses to do certain things. There could be the enlargement of the purview of the beautification committee. There's a whole bunch of different things that can happen. But this, the specificity of something like zoning code changes is something which really should be pulled out separately. So this, I expect, will be, these issues I expect will be listed as other specific zoning items to undertake. But I don't think you're going to find any more specificity than what you have here, probably far less.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Remind anyone, if you are watching on Monday, May 18, we're happy to hear your comments by phone at 769-1677. So, that being the case, it sounds like we should adjourn this once again to some date certain.
Let's get rid of it. When do you think those other ones will be ready? 2 months?
What's the second, 22nd? 22nd? A little further out?
Yeah, why don't we go 2 months? And
Okay.
that will give the Central Business District Committee a chance to...
July 27th.
Okay. So, motion to adjourn this hearing for continuation on July 27. So moved? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll keep you up to date both at our meetings on TV and now on www.pctv76.org, as well as through the website and our own village website at pleasantville-ny.gov about the arrival of the draft report from the Central Business District Planning Committee, and hopefully we'll have more to say on this subject when we revisit it in July. Okay, that being the case, we're ready to move on to resolutions. Oh, anyone from the audience? Nothing?
No, Mr. White's trying to sneak out. Don't sneak out. They're going to see you now on the website and TV.
Did you have something, Ben? Come on up. Right.
Good night, Phil.
Hello, my name is Ben Sarabin, 159 Sarles Lane. I just wanted to bring up just something. I haven't tried not to be too vocal about it, but finally someone brought it up on the on one of the mailing lists, just regarding the Jacob Burns Media Center, just regarding how the sidewalks it's still closed, and this was supposed to be done in the fall. And I just wanted to just stress upon that, when businesses or residents, apply for permits that involve closing public spaces, the applicant should be, advised that they need to tell the construction folks that they need to focus on the public spaces first versus the private spaces. Because what happened with the Jacob Burns Media Center was they've been doing a lot of work on the exterior facade, but unfortunately they've been working a lot on the interior side and the parking lot area, and if they'd focused on the exterior where the sidewalk is, they could have done that, because from what I can tell it's the same facade on the sidewalk side as it is on the interior side. So I just wanted to, think about that next time, an applicant applies for it, that the applicant should be, I don't know if we want to, change the zoning or do something along those lines, but it's been very frustrating, and it's a safety hazard. And
I agree. Did you reach out, Patty, to the Burns about that?
No, I didn't get a chance to, but the last discussion the chief had is that it would be finished the end of this month, because we didn't budget for the crossing guard in June with our new fiscal year,
Right.
because we were told that they'd be finished. So hopefully that's the case.
I
It's
agree,
only-
Ben. This has dragged on way longer than anybody expected, and I dare say perhaps longer than Burns expected. I did have a chat with the site manager, and this dates back perhaps a month, and the problem they encountered was that these are precast panels, and some arrived flawed. And so I don't know this for a fact, but it may be that they worked on the inside because those panels were good and they were stuck on the outside because they weren't. But nonetheless, I had expected the sidewalk was going to be open well before now, and it's frustrating, especially for everybody coming from the Sarles, Pleasant Avenue mountain side of things, to not be able to walk there. So can we reach out to them tomorrow and confirm that this has to get done?
I had emailed Patty this morning because I had gotten some residents at Pleasantville Day complaining about the same thing. And we had I had just asked Patty to look into when it's going to be, scaffolding is taken down. And Mike Testa, we had referred it over to Mike Testa, who didn't get back to us in time for the meeting. So by maybe tomorrow, we'll hear from Mike and see if he went over there today and got another estimated time of finishing.
Completion.
Yes.
It's time to be done. There's
Yes.
no question about that. Frustrating.
One thing I just
situation.
want to clarify, I thought the Burns was paying for the
The
crossing guard.
Yeah, but it goes
They
in our
are.
budget.
They
They're
are.
giving,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
mean, what-
they reimburse
Right.
100%.
Patty
yeah,
was
okay.
referring to is
Yeah.
it shows in our budget as an expense
Right.
and then a revenue when they reimburse us for it. So
I get you, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
thank you, Ben. Okay, on to the minutes.
You nothing?
The resolutions. Number 99, Steve.
Resolve the pre-check register dated May 18th, 2009, covering check numbers 63353 through 63423 has been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below. General Fund, $45,645 and 10. Water Fund, $103,198.17. Capital Fund, $29,011.60. Refuse Fund, $1,071.60. Pool Fund, $4,874.17. Trust and Agency, $1,920 for a total of $185,720.64.
Is there a second?
Second?
Patty, I noticed a payment to Carey and Walsh, which is the firm that's been doing the HVAC project here at Village Hall. Are they done? Is this the end?
They are
Is
done.
it working?
It's working.
Did you have the training session?
We did, yeah.
Oh.
I
And-
think we're all trained rather well. The system is interesting. It comes on
Is
every
interesting
morning.
a good adjective?
Well, yeah, I think we're okay with it. I think we're okay with it. You don't.
So we're
people
not
don't need
dying
to-
in here yet, but
Yeah.
then again, it only is
People don't need to
10
be
of
bored with
9.
it, but I think you'll all be impressed that we figured out how it works, and so far we're all at peace here. Yes.
So, for the benefit of those watching, we've spent nearly $500,000 on the HVAC system in this building. And the reason we did that is that the time the village acquired this building, the HVAC system was a kind of a patchwork of various things pieced together, and we were in a situation where it was costing us almost the debt service on the bond to fix it in annual repairs, with leaks and ceiling tiles being lost and hot weather and cold weather.
So now there's going to be no
Hello?
window air conditioners or anything like that? That each, some of the, I know like Linda's office she had a unit.
I don't know if
Taking
they'll.
mine out.
I don't think they need
Yeah.
them. It depends.
Well,
I don't know.
I
There's
hope
a
we
few.
don't need
I
them.
hope we don't
The
need
purpose
them.
was
That amount of money.
to get rid of them and avoid the expense of the energy for those. So.
Right. Right.
It's also a great system because most of the time it's not on. So, like in my office, most of the time I don't even have anything on. I have
Right,
a window
I don't
open.
either.
So it's
Yeah.
really, I think it's saving, energy because
Well,
most
that
of
was
the
the goal.
offices don't have the
Shut it off, yeah.
it off completely, especially now. Whereas in the old system, it was running constantly.
Because you couldn't balance the room.
Right.
So
It'd be interesting
most of the
to
day
sort of
it's just-
figure that out, if there's a savings. I wonder, how long has it been online?
It hasn't been on long. Maybe I would say completed it maybe a month.
Well,
this
when they gave us the proposal, they cited a considerable
Yeah,
amount of
but-
savings
yeah, but-
for us when we...
This is mostly an electric system, and our rates have skyrocketed.
Well, but it'd be interesting
so
to sort of see
it's
how
almost hard
much,
to-
how much power we used a year ago, 12 months ago with the old system.
But that wasn't all electric. That's the problem. I don't know how to do that.
Can't do apples to apples.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, it goes to a
Well,
discussion
yeah.
for another day about the notion of tracking our energy use and being a good bit more aggressive about trying to reduce our energy use and think about retrofits wherever we can. I talked to Brian about that today, so I think we should put that on for a work session, and Steve Johnson was willing to sign on to spearhead that on the staff side, if I recall. So, all right, that was a diversion from the check register itself, but useful, I think. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Mindy?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, May 11th, 2009, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, corrections?
I-
The one thing I wanted to comment on was that last night, the end of Pleasantville Day, Holy Innocents Youth Group had undertaken a youth service event, sleeping in cardboard boxes in the parking lot at the corner of Tompkins and Manville, in an effort to highlight the conditions that exist in New Orleans, I believe. And of course, it was a horrifying rainy night,
Yeah.
so I hope they did okay. I saw a pile of wet boxes.
Poor things, lightning
I
and
actually-
thunder
actually-
and lightning and
I
everything
actually
else.
drove by as the rain, I was coming back from the city and I was getting gas at Farrow's and had temporarily forgotten that there was a group of high school kids over there sleeping in boxes. But they were making it known that this was not a comfortable night. They were learning about the disadvantaged in the world. It was a great...
One of my daughters was there, and I
Oh,
think
really?
that as of 3 in the morning, her box had collapsed from the wetness. Although we had brought down a tarp to put over the top, it had already gotten pretty wet.
It was raining.
And they had moved into the social hall, which was the plan.
That
As
was
things
the
got-
plan?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Well,
Well,
Got a
it
little
wouldn't
too
have
rough.
taught
was
them
like
anything
being-
if it
it
had
was
been a
like-
nice night. There's a
As long as the
lesson
social
here.
hall wasn't leaking, then they feel like they're at the Astrodome there with...
Well, at any rate, a really impressive
Sleep on the
project
seat.
that Holy Innocents had crafted and that the kids have participated in. So thank you all for doing that, and sorry it turned out to be such a tough night on which to do it. So, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Ryan, 101.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby engages the services of Joel Sachs of Keen & Bean, P.C., 445 Hamilton Avenue, White Plains, as village attorney, and be it further resolved that the firm of Keen & Bean is hereby designated as general counsel to the Village of Pleasantville effective May 18, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
The background to this is that we have used Keen & Bean for a number of different kinds of legal questions that we've had over the last couple of years, and Joel Sachs in particular is a highly regarded environmental attorney as well as a general purpose municipal attorney, and he has served us ably and efficiently, and as a result of that we've decided to name Joel and his firm as the general counsel to the Village of Pleasantville. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Steve, you got the several chapter one.
Yes. How much of this do you wish to read into the record?
Well,
Anything? It's up
you
to
can say as further stated in the record.
Resolution 2009-102, approval of easement agreement with Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Whereas the Village of Pleasantville is the owner of a municipal parking lot located at Manville Road, Village of Pleasantville, designated as Section 10606, Block 1, Lot 51 on the tax map of the Village of Pleasantville. And whereas the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, acting through the Metro and North Commuter Railroad Companies, in the process of adding a number of electrical substations along the Harlem line between Valhalla and Brewster, and whereas in regard to the installation of an additional electrical substation in the Village of Pleasantville, the MTA has requested an easement from the village to construct and operate certain electrical switchgear on a portion of the village's Manville Road parking lot, and whereas the village board has considered such request by the MTA and is willing to grant such easement, provided that, among other things, the 2 spaces that the electrical switchgear will occupy will be replaced by 2 new spaces in the same parking lot where 2 dumpsters are presently located, and the MTA will relocate the 2 existing dumpsters to an adjacent village parcel designated as Section 106.6, etc. Whereas as further consideration for this transaction, the Village of Pleasantville shall be receiving additional consideration from the MTA for such easement, including payment of $3,500, and whereas a draft easement agreement has been reviewed, revised, and approved by special counsel, whereas the Board of Trustees believes it is in the best interest of the village to enter in such agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves entering into a certain easement agreement in the village and the MTA. Further resolved that the mayor on behalf of the village is authorized to execute such easement agreement documents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to describe this?
I'd be happy to. The area we're talking about is the Manville parking lot, located off of Manville Road and in the vicinity of Washington
Behind the
Avenue.
bookstore.
Behind Dunkin' Donuts, the
Dunkin'
bookstore,
Donuts,
Glass Onion,
Glass Onion.
and MacArthur's. As you
And the
enter...
dry cleaners.
And the
Just trying
dry
to cover all the
cleaner.
bases.
Thank you.
Can't leave any out.
That's it. You got them all. As you enter that lot, up in the far right corner is an area now that is used for dumpsters. What the MTA is proposing to do is use an area in the lower left corner of the lot. So as you drive in immediately to the left, in that far corner, they need to place a switch pad, which is basically the electrical power for the substation that they'll be putting in off the Sawmill Parkway. And in consideration of taking 2 parking spaces to install that switch pad, and for a number of reasons it has to go there, they just can't get the power to the station any other way except off Manville Road. And in consideration of the use of those spaces, they will relocate the dumpsters, place them in an area that's on the northern end of the lot.
Kind of behind the Wachovia parking lot retaining wall, right?
That's right. It's a dirt area right now. It's not even
We own
used
this
for
funny
surface
dog-leg
parking.
of property behind Wachovia.
They'll pour a concrete pad, they'll tuck the dumpsters in there, and they'll even run power there in the event we get compactors in the future in that area, which is very nice, and clean up those spaces where the dumpsters are currently sitting. And that will free up, I believe, 3 parking spaces for us once we restripe it in that corner. So, and they'll give $3,500 for the easement.
So it's, I think, a win-win all the way around. We lose 2 spaces, but get back 3. We get a $3,500 payment that compensates us for the trouble, and we end up with a new dumpster enclosure that I think will look better and also set us up to the potential to have motorized sealed compactor dumpsters, which would be a big step forward as well. The reason Metro North has to put this equipment in is that when they originally electrified the line north of North White Plains, they based it on a certain assumption on how many trains would run. The growth of the number of trains and the passengers has gotten to the point that they now have too many trains in the northern section for the power, and as a result the trains run slower. So they've identified, I think they told us, 17 locations between North White Plains and Southeast where they have to add new electrical power, and for a whole series of technical reasons these 2 parking spaces were the place for the switchgear. So thanks go to Joel Sachs, our new village attorney, for having negotiated this and somewhat improved the offer from Metro North's original request, and thanks go to Metro North for a cooperative discussion. We're happy to undertake projects that benefit them and benefit us and maintain good service for the commuters as well as solve a couple of problems for the village of Pleasantville. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. That's good.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the Town of Newcastle to submit a grant application for ozone generators at the Millwood water plant.
Is there a second?
Second.
You want to describe that, Patty?
Sure. As co-owners of the Millwood treatment plant, Newcastle had asked that we essentially approve of their submittal for funding under the grant program for green innovation projects. The ozone generators at the Millwood water treatment plant will eventually need to be replaced, and they are eligible under this green innovation grant program for funding, and Newcastle is seeking approximately $1.2 million from the grant program in order to replace those units with funding from this.
Go ahead.
My only question was that they have to provide an amount of money to as a match. Are we?
Well, they're offering.
Do we have to put any of that match money in? They're doing 120.
It's indirectly we would, because we're responsible for 19% of the capital improvements under our agreement. So it'd be 19% of 120,000.
So at any rate, our resolution does not have to refer to our commitment to our share of the local match?
It doesn't have to,
Okay.
because the Millwood, the way the budget is set
Well,
with Newcastle.
Well, they don't. To them, they are in this. Their copy of their resolution. They are supplying the whole local match.
Right. It would be in their Millwood budget, which we are a part of, so we would pay our portion
Our
anyway.
Oh, so we're
share
going to
of the
we'll
Right.
get it from them.
So we'd end up paying about...
It would come through our annual
20.
Okay, so you, okay, all right. I didn't know how it was
$24,000.
going to get to us.
No.
All right.
But yes, you're right, I understand the
These are-
question. We would pay a portion of that match.
And these are new ozone generators to replace the ones that we have now.
That's my understanding. This
That would be more energy
Right.
efficient or whatever, so.
Right.
And the ones that we have now are not working, is that true?
I thought they were taken off.
Last we heard, they were taken offline because of the cost to produce the ozone.
I was
So I don't know if
interested-
these units must be more energy efficient, I would think is why
We
they're
all
applying
got
for the grant.
the water report in our mail last week, and if you carefully read it, you learn that a significant part of purifying our water has to do with the ozone that's produced here. It's a key part of the process in purifying the water. So I was interested I was wondering, knowing that they took those ozone generators offline, were these water tests done while the ozone generators were going? And is there a significant falling off in the quality of our water, at least that we saw in this report? I mean, is what we're getting right now out of our taps what's reflected in the report that we all got in the mail? You know what
Good
I'm saying?
question. Yeah, I'm just, the ozone generator,
because
doesn't it, the ozone generator go to the clarity of the water? I think it's not purity, it's clarity. If I'm
I wish I
right.
had my copy here, because it actually summed up what the ozone did. And,
Oh, okay. Was it, am I correct in?
It sort of summed it up as being an important part of
I
the
just
water
got mine today.
purification
How come you got yours
process.
so soon?
I got mine on Saturday. I read it
just
word
got
for
mine
word.
today. Unbelievable, Brian. You're like a step ahead of everybody.
Right.
Well, I think to your question, there's been no exceedances throughout the year last year. The water report had no exceptions.
But I wonder, is that when the ozone was online?
Yeah. Good question, Brian.
I don't know that.
And how is that affecting the
Right. But
It'd just
even,
be interesting.
When's our meeting with
I guess
them?
that
We
would be
haven't-
interesting to, I don't know what dates it would be taken off and what dates we would test. I don't think there's any correlation there at all.
But I don't think, but I really believe that it goes to just the clarity of the water, not the
turbidity.
Yeah. Because if you look at, the reason I'm saying this, and all right, you'll make fun of me because it's swimming again, but most of your Olympic pools, or any pools that Michael Phelps is going to be swimming in, are treated with ozone generators, because a swimmer needs clarity in their water. That's really what they do, is just make it crystal clear, so you have a perfect line of sight, like you were looking like this, but you're looking underwater.
Well, but that's part of getting the turbidity out of the water, which is part of the
Right, well,
part
I
of the
guess
system.
so, I guess
Just
maybe...
demonstrating the diverse interests of our village board.
Well, I'm assuming that that maybe that's it. Maybe that it does do that.
You're thinking it's a coagulant.
Maybe.
That would be the flocculant.
The flocculant.
Flocculant,
all right.
right.
Well, I'm just
like
interested in
flocculant better.
where that report,
Well,
when
we
that
could find- we
report was
could find
drawn,
that. We could find that out, right?
aren't, right, if water isn't being ozoned now.
We can
All right,
find that
well, how
out.
about this? Periodically, we have met the Newcastle Town Board at the water treatment plant and gone on a tour of it, and it seems like perhaps the time is right to do that. We've got a couple of members who may not have done that yet.
I went to the
Yeah.
meeting last year, but it wasn't.
Right.
It was at Village Hall in Chappaqua. I would
So-
love to go to the facility.
I have it on my list to call Barbara Gerard anyway, so let's talk tomorrow, Patty, about determining when we last met,
Good.
see what may be on their radar screen. We could meet at the water treatment plant if they think that's appropriate, and address our joint interests on that occasion, and then everybody can get a chance to ask these technical questions as well.
Please, goggles.
And it's an interesting trip to see how the water is filtered in order to produce the water you read about in the report, which, as Patty mentioned, substantially exceeds the required standard in every respect. So you can be assured that the water that is delivered...
Or did.
Well, You read the whole report, doesn't it?
Can we assign trustee Skarstad with the
With water.
responding to the community
You've been
with
to
the
the plant,
details
though.
of his
I
question?
think we'll
You went to the plant.
blindfold
Yes,
him and
please.
have him take a
Okay.
sip of ozonated and unozonated
Yeah,
water
we're gonna
and
have-
see
we're
if
gonna
he
have
can tell
taste
the
tests
difference.
here?
Yes,
I think
we
that
do.
was-
All right.
Have a
10
taste
times
test.
purer than Evian.
All in favor of this motion to authorize
Oh, man,
the
I am
grant?
so in favor of this.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, number 104.
Was it me?
Found it, 104?
Got it. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, based upon the recommendation of Sarah Hoyt, PCTV President, hereby gives approval to PCTV for reappointment of the following candidates recommended to serve on the PCTV Board. And these are all terms from June 1st, 2009 to May 31st, 2011. Billie Jean Sorensen, Secretary; Tina Steinbeck, Treasurer; Ben Cheever, Board Member; Linda Becker, Board Member.
Is there a second?
Second.
These are great and longstanding members of the PCTV board, have done yeoman service and are delighted to hear that they're willing to re-up and do it again. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Steve, 105.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the service agreement with DataServe for on-site desktop printer service.
Got this in here again, huh, Judy?
Is there a second?
It's going to show up
Second,
for a...
second.
Well, since we last talked about it, we had a repair request, so we had to call in the company for an hourly bill.
And Judy also did a
And we
lot
gave you the
more
data.
homework on it, too.
Yeah, we wanted to
And
show you what wasn't
Yep.
covered.
Showed
which
that
are-
she was right in the first place. She did her due diligence.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Mindy,
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the following budget amendment. Should I read this whole thing? I guess I should, because it's all... Well, the $10,000 from judgments and claims to legal and contractual. And then the balance all go to police overtime. $1,000 from police equipment, $500 to police supplies, $1,624 police outside services, $2,269 to police detective overtime, $1,259 from police detective conference, $1,975 to police JV holiday party,
No, juvenile...
juvenile holiday.
Juvenile
okay.
division holiday
Why
pay.
did I see party?
I don't know, but that scared me.
It's because of the holiday.
we're paying $1,975 for holiday pay.
PBA is very
Not for
excited right
holiday
now about
party.
their party.
Oh, man.
Is there a second?
Second.
So, this is something you'll see a lot of in meetings near the end of the fiscal year, which ends at the end of May. We're basically moving $18,627 from accounts that are overfunded to accounts that are underfunded. Does not change the overall budget or the profit and loss. It simply is a matter of bookkeeping to establish a balance in accounts overall. So, is all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. We've got one additional resolution regarding parking at the farmers market that was added today and was not on the agenda that you may have seen before. Brian.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the police chief to post no parking signs in designated locations in the Memorial Plaza parking lot during the farmers market hours,
Well, that's
7
open.
a.m. to
Right.
1 p.m., right, on each Saturday beginning May 30th through to December 19th, 2009, and to tow all vehicles violating this temporary parking restriction.
Is there a second?
Second.
So these are have we resolved where the no parking will be?
No, I haven't heard anything. There's a little bit of a controversy of how many parking places were designated no parking. It's specifically, and the chief is supposed to relook at that and tell us. Did we get anything on that, Patty? Because I don't know.
You'll meet out there with Miriam this week, but I don't think much will change from last year. I know that people were concerned about the number of spaces, but from a pedestrian safety point of view, the chief felt it was more important to keep a wide area clear.
I don't agree with that at all, but, and I wish I had expressed my opinion to the chief, apparently don't hold a lot of weight there, but there's just too many spaces that are left, no parking. We had initially, when we moved the farmer's market down towards Bedford Road, one of our larger vendors, Bialis Farms, needed a place, he needs his truck nearby. Bialis and Mead are two of the vendors, the largest vendors, and they're at both ends, and they need their trucks nearby because they're continually loading and unloading. So we moved him down to that end, and we took away 4 parking spaces so he could back his truck in there and it could be out of the way. We did the same thing on the other end.
Sideways, is that what you mean?
Right,
It goes
yes,
in
parallel
sideways.
to the curb. And we did the same thing to Mead. And, it's going back over here in the plaza where there's a big, that big rounded area there. It doesn't interfere anywhere. But during this season last summer, I think it's close to 18 spaces were taken away right against the sidewalk of the market from that point all the way down to where the market manager's tent is. And we had a lot of complaints from people that there's not enough parking. And I agree, we moved it to the plaza so people could drive in, pull up, park, get out, shop, and leave. And I think 18 spaces is way too much.
What should they do?
We had requested, it was the 4 that we needed for Bialis, and that's it. I don't think you need any more. We have a place for the other vendors to put their trucks. They unload if they get there on time, which they should. Unload and move their trucks to behind Lucy's. And therefore, not having to, he was parking all the trucks parallel to the curb, which I think was more of a sight issue for pedestrians walking out in between trucks. I mean, that's really what's so dangerous. So, I don't agree with closing off all those spaces. She's worried about.
I think that makes sense.
She's worried if a high-speed car jumps the curve, it could hurt pedestrians. That was her fear, Miriam's fear. And the curb height is quite large there. And somebody coming through that plaza, turning into a parking space, isn't going to be going 90. You can't be.
Further, the thing I never understood is we have cars parked nose in front of booths further down the plaza, so if it's okay down there, why isn't it okay
right there?
Right
It
there.
doesn't make any sense.
I note all your points, and the chief is meeting with Miriam this week, so when he gets back,
Okay.
he'll walk the plaza. But whatever he says has to go, because I can't.
When are they meeting? I
Can't do
will meet
otherwise.
them. Are they
I'm
meeting?
not sure when he's on vacation, so I'll have to wait for.
When
him
is
to
he
come
back?
Comes back Wednesday, but I don't know if he's coming back to work Wednesday.
Wait a minute, this is a safety issue?
Yes, that's
It's
what.
because of, it's protecting the farmer's market? Is that what
Yes,
this is?
pedestrian. She thinks someone's going to jump the curb.
I'm not sure where it started and where it ended, but
But I mean, if that's a concern, I don't know why it isn't a concern further
All the
down
way
as
down.
well. So,
It's not. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's a concern. I think you want to knock off a few more spaces. That's fine. But the amount that's designated is way too much. So.
all right, so can you let Mindy know when the...
I think just to point out the difference, when you come in the plaza at that end, you can end up going straight and jumping a sidewalk. When you're down the other end, you're already heading in a parallel direction with the market.
You can't.
No, you can't. I mean, you've already made the turn around Bialis' truck.
Yeah.
Well, you could now. You could.
I don't think so, Patty. You try to do it. It just.
No, I'm just saying, but we hear these, in defense of the chief's point of view, you hear all the time people do.
It wasn't the chief that mentioned it.
I
I'm
don't-
just saying,
I don't- I mean,
there are
it
people that got
clearly-
run over at these types of fairs before.
Clearly, it
and
could
if you-
happen,
if you-
except that I just don't see why the risk is any greater, say, in the area of the war monuments in Mid-Plaza than it is down by the railroad overpass.
Well, I know, but I mean, I'm going to have him talk about that, because if it is, he might tell you the whole thing should have no parking.
The problem
you know.
is that some people go fast through there. And
That's
that's
right.
the problem all over this village.
that's
People
right.
are driving too fast. So,
All right, well,
we talked about speed bumps there.
That's right. That was another
That was
option.
also
There's
on
no,
the agenda.
That's a legitimate option for the plaza.
Right.
all right,
I think so.
Mindy will be part of the discussion, and
Okay.
whatever is believed to be the right solution by the chief will... okay, all in favor?
It's
Aye.
just
Aye.
no parking.
Was that an aye?
It was an aye because it doesn't
Was it?
say where. It just says you have to have
I
them.
don't know where.
No, it
We
left-
still don't know
it
where.
left
Maybe
flexibility.
we need to be a
We
little
haven't
more...
gotten to the where yet.
I think
the
it left
why and the
flexibility for you to
where.
weigh in on this.
I hope so, because
I think,
it's a
Mindy,
problem.
you should be a part of that.
I
You should
totally
get
agree.
that walkthrough.
Absolutely
The chief
agree.
and Marion.
I leave Friday for...
Oh, no, it'll be before Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are
Probably
there any
Thursday.
other comments or call-ins at 769-1677? I had a couple of things to point out, and one was, again, to remind everybody of what we told you at the outset, and that is that we now have, through the PCTV website, streaming video of these meetings, and you can now watch them on the web,
So
either
no excuses.
either live
Have to watch
or
us.
afterwards at any time on-demand video at www.pctv76.org. Patty, could we put up an email blast on our, both a notice on our site and also an email blast?
Ben's got a good picture there.
Yeah, and actually,
Yeah.
thank you. We linked our website already to
Great.
this statement.
Wow.
And that,
Shane, you want to get another picture of Ben's computer? One
I'd
more?
like
But
to
it would
say,
be at Ben's computer, because he takes the camera off of us.
so this is virtual reality. The other thing to note is that if you go to the village website, which we, as you may have heard last week, are going to be in the process of updating, at pleasantville-ny.gov, and click subscribe to news, you can sign up for various different kinds of emails and get agendas and notices of various sorts right to your email box, and it's really a great advantage and a great way for us to communicate with you. So I wholeheartedly endorse the notion that you go to pleasantville-ny.gov and sign up and give us your email so we can send you notices. We'll be sending out a notice about the new PCTV website and the webcasting through that resource, and you'll be confronted with a list of options. You don't have to sign up to get things you don't want, but it's a great means for us to be in touch with you. So the last thing I wanted to make a brief note about is that I have, over the last couple of weeks, been wandering around and talking to a variety of different commercial real estate brokers who are familiar with the Pleasantville market or are involved in it, and it's been an interesting and useful venture to get some background about what has happened and what hasn't in recent years, and some of the ideas that real estate brokers have about actions the village might take that might improve the environment for commercial development and to populate our existing buildings. And all of that will lead to an effort that we'll be undertaking fairly soon to revisit the options for the MLA property and to try to play a constructive role as a government. Recognize that we don't own the MLA property, but I'm very much interested in engaging and maintaining a dialogue with the Stop and Shop company, which currently does own it, about the steps we might take to see that property returned to active use. So that's what's going on here at Village Hall. Anybody else have anything to add? There being no further comment, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Again, Memorial Day Parade is a week from today on Monday the 25th. Fire Department Parade a week from Friday on Friday the 29th. See you again at our next meeting, which is, the next televised meeting is Monday, June 8th.